All right, so you're thinking about reading Crown of Midnight.
The second book in Sarah J. Maas's Throne of Glass series.
Yeah, exactly. And you want to know,
Is it actually worth my time?
especially
Especially if you
liked the first book,
but maybe weren't blown away.
maybe you weren't totally sure about it.
We're here to help you figure that out.
We're going to do a deep dive today.
Yeah, we're going to look at what the critics are saying.
Looking at the fantasy shelf and Goodreads.
Yeah, and comparing it to some other popular books.
See if it's something you'd enjoy.
Exactly.
To give you that cheat sheet to decide if this is for you.
Yeah.
Crown of Midnight.
So to set the scene.
For those who need a refresher.
Yeah.
Imagine a world where magic is outlawed.
A young assassin is forced to serve a tyrannical king.
And dark secrets are hidden in this glittering glass castle.
Ooh, I like that.
And in Crown of Midnight.
The stakes get even higher. Celaena Sardothian.
Our protagonist.
Our protagonist is working as the king's champion, but secretly she's part of a rebellion.
Oh, wow. So she's living this double life.
Dangerous.
Very dangerous.
Very exciting.
Very exciting.
Okay, so that does sound pretty intense, but I do remember some readers felt like Celaena didn't quite live up to the hype.
To the hype of the greatest assassin ever?
Yeah, in the first book.
In the first book.
So does Crown of Midnight address that?
Yes.
Does she actually get to be an assassin?
She gets to unleash her badass assassin skills.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Multiple reviewers mentioned a noticeable shift in this book.
Okay.
The Fantasy Shelf Review praises the increased level of action and shocking moments.
Love that.
And several Goodreads reviewers describe Celaena as a lethal predator.
Okay, that's more like it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of readers were hoping for a bit more action from the greatest assassin ever.
Yes.
So do we get any specific examples of
Yes.
her being an assassin?
Of her actually being assassinated.
Yeah.
So there's this scene described in the Goodreads reviews where Celaena faces off against a creepy witch
named Baba Yellowlegs in the catacombs beneath the castle.
Okay.
It sounds like a truly epic battle.
Now that's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
But let's be real, the romance
Yes.
can make or break a fantasy novel.
Absolutely.
Some readers found the love triangle in the first book a little meh.
A little mad.
What about this one?
What about in Crown of Midnight?
Yeah.
Well, the romance in Crown of Midnight is a bit of a mixed bag.
Okay.
The Fantasy Shelf Review actually found the chemistry between Celaena and her love interest to be forced.
Okay.
And said they would have preferred a strong friendship dynamic.
Yeah, I get that forced romance can be a real turnoff.
Sure.
But were there any dissenting opinions on the love triangle?
Yes.
I mean, romance is subjective, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Some Goodreads reviewers found it captivating.
Okay.
One even called the love triangle perfectly executed.
Wow.
And another raved about the development of Celaena and Kale's relationship.
Ooh.
They described it as full of banter-teasing tension glory.
Ooh, that does sound kind of fun.
Which honestly sounds pretty fun.
Okay, so it really depends what you're looking for.
Yeah, what you're looking for in a romance.
Exactly.
Some might be into the slow burn, tension-filled dynamic, while others might find it frustrating.
Yeah.
For sure.
What about the world itself?
Yes.
The first book gave us a glimpse.
A little glimpse.
But does Crown of Midnight really expand on the world building in a satisfying way?
It does.
Okay, good.
Definitely.
Tell me more.
The Fantasy Shelf Review mentions a much deeper dive into the world.
Okay.
We get more details about fallen kingdoms, the introduction of witches, and a clearer understanding of the king's sinister power,
I like it.
which seems to be tied to magic somehow.
Ooh, interesting.
Plus, Goodreads reviewers were buzzing about the reveals of Celaena's Fey heritage and Dorian's raw magic.
Hold on, Fey heritage.
Fey heritage.
Raw magic.
Raw magic.
That's definitely adding some intrigue.
It is.
Okay, but did the reviewers feel like these new elements were well integrated into the story? Or did it feel like information overload?
They felt like it added a whole new layer of complexity and made the world feel richer and more vibrant.
I like it.
Yeah.
Okay, you've definitely piqued my curiosity.
Good.
But let's get down to brass tacks.
Okay.
Is the book actually good?
Is it good?
Is there real substance beneath the surface?
That's the question.
Yeah.
The Fantasy Shelf Reviewer gave the book a very good rating, an 8 out of 10, and described it as a fun and thrilling ride.
Okay.
Several Goodreads reviewers even called it exceptional and mind-blowing.
Okay.
So it definitely seems like it lives up to the hype.
That's good to hear, but I'm always a bit wary of overwhelmingly positive reviews.
Sure.
Were there any criticisms that stood out to you?
There were a few.
Even small things can sometimes be a deal breaker for a reader.
Yeah, there were a few reviewers who found the first half of the book a bit slow and frustrating.
Okay.
They specifically mention Celaena making some questionable decisions and Kael's unwavering loyalty to the king, even when it seems like a bad idea.
Yeah, I can see how that would be frustrating,
Right.
especially if you're hoping for Celaena to be a bit more decisive
Yes,
and for Chael to, maybe wake up and smell the tyranny.
exactly.
Okay.
But even those reviewers acknowledged that the second half of the book more than makes up for it.
Okay.
They said the pacing picks up, the stakes get higher, and the twists keep you guessing until the very end.
Okay, so we've got action, intrigue, romance, and apparently some frustrating character choices in the first half.
Yes,
But overall, it sounds like Crown of Midnight has potential.
it definitely does.
Okay,
But like we said at the beginning, we're here to help you figure out if it's the right book for you.
exactly.
Yes.
So let's dive deeper into the specifics and see if Crown of Midnight is worth adding to your TBR pile.
Yes. So let's start with the writing.
Okay?
Sarah J. Maas is known for a really immersive, engaging style,
Yeah.
but some readers felt the first book got a little bogged down
Yeah.
in Celaena's palace life.
Right.
So does Crown of Midnight strike a better balance?
That's a good question.
Mm.
I'm always looking for that balance of
Yes.
action and world building and character development.
Of course.
So what did the reviews say about the overall tone and style of this book?
Well, multiple reviewers highlighted how much darker and more intense Crown of Midnight is compared to the first book.
Okay.
The fantasy shelf, specifically called out the increased level of action and shopping moments.
Uh-huh.
And remember that epic battle with the witch in the catacombs?
Oh, yeah. That definitely sounds like a step up from the training exercises and parties in the first book.
For sure.
But what about the criticisms of Celaena's character?
Yes.
Did those reviewers feel like she finally lived up to her reputation
Yes.
as the greatest assassin ever?
It seems like Maas really took those criticisms to heart. Reviewers consistently describe Celaena as a lethal predator and a whirlwind of steel and blood in Crown of Midnight.
Okay.
They finally got to see that killer instinct and strategic cunning in action.
It makes you wonder if this is a classic case of second book syndrome,
It could be.
where the author has a chance to really refine their ideas and hit their stride.
Definitely.
Yeah.
The Fantasy Shelf reviewer actually mentioned that Crown of Midnight felt like everything was in sharper focus compared to the first book, which felt in retrospect like a slow start to the real story.
Right, that makes sense. The first book had a lot of heavy lifting to do,
It did.
setting up the world, introducing the characters.
Absolutely.
And now Maas can really unleash the potential
Yeah.
of this world and its magic system.
Exactly, and it sounds like she does just that.
Okay.
All those details about fallen kingdoms, the introduction of witches, and Celaena's Fae heritage,
Yeah.
those are the kind of elements that get fantasy fans excited.
For someone who might be on the fence about committing to a 7-book series,
Yeah.
those hints of a larger, more intricate world are a huge draw to keep reading.
Huge draw, right? And that's one of the things that makes a series binge-worthy.
We'll talk.
The feeling that there's always another layer to uncover, another secret to discover.
Okay, let's tackle something that can be a bit divisive in fantasy.
Okay.
The love triangle.
Yes,
Some people love them, some people hate them.
for sure.
What did these reviewers have to say about the love triangle in Crown of Midnight?
It seems like Crown of Midnight leans more toward the well-executed side of the love triangle spectrum.
Okay.
Even the Fantasy Shelf reviewer, who would have preferred just a strong friendship, acknowledged that the love triangle in this book is well handled.
Okay, so even the romance skeptics were on board.
It seems like it.
That's impressive. Were there any specific details about the love triangle that stood out in the reviews?
It sounds like Crown of Midnight is a turning point not just for the plot, but for the relationships too.
Okay.
Celaena's bond with Kael deepens, but her connection with Dorian also takes on a new significance.
We don't want to spoil anything for our listener, but certain revelations about Celaena and Dorian's true natures are revealed in this book.
Yes, they are.
And that definitely shakes things up in the relationship.
Definitely. And that's what makes this love triangle compelling.
Okay.
It's not just about who Celaena will choose.
Mm-hmm.
It's about how these relationships shape her as a person and influence her destiny.
Okay. For those of us who like a good book recommendation,
Yes.
did any of the reviewers compare Crown of Midnight to other books or series?
I didn't see any direct comparisons in these reviews.
Okay.
But based on what we've talked about, a badass heroine, a magical world with a dark history, a well-developed love triangle.
Right.
I think readers who enjoyed Throne of Glass would also appreciate other young adult fantasy series
Right.
with strong female leads.
So what are we thinking? A Court of Thorns and Roses, also by Sarah J. Maas.
That's a good one.
Maybe the Grishaverse series by Leigh Bardugo, or Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard.
Those are all great comparisons.
Yeah.
I think A Court of Thorns and Roses is particularly relevant since Maas has a definite talent for writing captivating romances.
Yeah.
And both series feature heroines who are strong, independent, and ready to fight for what they believe in.
Plus, both series have that blend of action romance and political intrigue that Maas does so well.
Yes.
So if our listener is already a fan of her work, they'll probably enjoy Crown of Midnight.
Probably.
But what about those readers who might be a bit hesitant about committing to another long series?
Yeah.
Or those who've heard mixed reviews about Throne of Glass in general? What would you say to them?
I'd say that Crown of Midnight takes everything that worked in the first book and elevates it.
Okay.
The action is more intense, the world building is richer, the characters are more complex.
Yeah.
Plus, it ends with a cliffhanger that will leave you desperate to find out what happens next.
Ooh, a cliffhanger.
A cliffhanger.
Now that's a good hook.
Yes.
But what about those pacing issues some reviewers mentioned?
Yeah.
Could that be a turnoff for some readers?
It's true that some reviewers found the first half a bit slow.
Okay.
But remember, they also said the second half more than made up for it. And that's common in fantasy. Sometimes you need that slower burn to build up the world and the characters before things really take off.
Right. Not every book needs to be a nonstop thrill ride from page one.
Exactly.
But let's be honest, not every book is for everyone.
True.
Are there any readers who might want to steer clear of Crown of Midnight?
If you're looking for a light, fluffy read with no violence or darkness, this isn't the book for you.
Yeah.
Crown of Midnight deals with some pretty intense themes, including loss, betrayal, and the corrupting nature of power.
Okay.
There's also a fair amount of blood and gore, so if you're squeamish, you might want to skip this one.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
It's important to know what you're getting into before you start a book,
It is.
especially one that's part of a longer series.
Yeah.
And I think it's worth mentioning that while the romance is a significant part of the story,
Yes.
it's not the sole focus.
Exactly. This is ultimately Celaena's story, her journey of self-discovery, her struggle to come to terms with her past, and her fight for a better future.
And that's what makes her such a compelling character.
It is.
She's flawed. She makes mistakes, but she's also incredibly strong, resourceful, and determined to do what's right.
And I think that's something a lot of readers can relate to.
Yeah.
We all have our own struggles, our own demons to fight.
No, sure.
Seeing Celaena confront hers, even when it's messy and painful, can be inspiring.
It's like, yeah, life is tough, but I can handle it.
Right.
I can be brave.
Yeah.
I can fight for what I believe in, even when the odds are stacked against me.
Exactly. And sometimes seeing a fictional character overcome those challenges can give us the courage to face our own.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. The writing, the characters, the world building, the romance, the action, even the pacing.
We have.
What's the final verdict?
Yes.
Is Crown of Midnight worth a reader's time?
Based on everything we've discussed, I'd say it's a resounding yes.
Okay.
Especially if you're looking for a fantasy series with a strong female lead, a richly imagined world, and a plot that keeps you on the edge of your seat until the very last page.
But as always, even the most glowing reviews can't guarantee that you will love a book. Sometimes you just have to take a leap of faith and see where the story takes you.
That's the beauty of reading. It's a personal journey.
Yeah.
And even if you don't end up loving Crown of Midnight, you'll at least have experienced something new, something that might spark your imagination or challenge your perspective.
So true. And you never know. You might just discover your new favorite series. But let's give our listener a few more details to mull over before they make their decision.
Okay.
What were some of the most memorable moments or details from these reviews? The kind of things that stay with you even after you've finished the book.
One thing that really stood out to me was the focus on Celaena's emotional journey in this book.
Okay.
It's not just about her physical abilities as an assassin.
Right.
She's grappling with grief trauma and the heavy weight of her secrets.
A few reviewers mentioned her intense reactions
Yeah.
to some pretty heavy stuff
Yeah,
that goes down in this book,
definitely.
particularly a tragedy
Yes.
that involves someone close to her.
It's a big one.
It definitely sounds like Crown of Midnight
Yeah.
doesn't shy away from the emotional consequences of violence and loss.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, good.
And that emotional depth makes Celaena so much more relatable and interesting.
Right.
She's not just this invincible killing machine.
Right.
She's a young woman trying to find her place in the world, trying to make peace with her past and figure out who she really is.
And that struggle to define yourself, to understand your own identity, is something that a lot of readers, especially young adults, can connect with.
Absolutely.
It's a universal experience, figuring out who you are and where you belong.
It is.
Yeah.
Seeing a character like Celaena, who is so powerful and skilled, wrestle with those same questions can be incredibly reassuring.
Yeah, like, okay, even the strongest among us have doubts and insecurities.
They do.
I'm not alone in feeling this way.
Exactly.
Okay, before we wrap things up, I have to ask.
Yes.
What's your personal take on Crown of Midnight?
Ooh.
Would you recommend it?
100%. It's an amazing blend of action, intrigue, romance, and genuine emotion.
Yeah.
Maas creates this world that's both beautiful and dangerous, and she fills it with characters you can't help but root for.
I love that impossible not to root for.
Yes.
That's the sign of a truly great story.
Well, I think so.
So for our listener out there,
Yes.
if you're craving a fantasy adventure that will transport you to a world of magic secrets and twists and turns that will keep you guessing,
Yes.
Crown of Midnight might be just the ticket.
It might be.
And if you're still on the fence,
Yeah.
remember what we said before.
Okay.
Sometimes the best reading experiences come from venturing outside your comfort zone.
Absolutely.
You might be surprised by how much you enjoy Crown of Midnight.
You might.
Okay, that's a wrap on our deep dive into Crown of Midnight.
It is.
Hopefully this has given you all the info you need to decide whether or not to add this book to your TBR list.
That's what we're here for.
All right, thanks for joining us.
Of course.
Happy reading.
Happy reading.